What if the universe wasn't random? What if everything we see, every law of physics, every living cell, the rise of consciousness, the spark that is human life, points to something greater? Tonight we follow evidence, wherever that leads, into the heart of existence itself. We begin at the beginning, the origin of the universe. A modern cosmology and overwhelmingly supports that space. Time, matter, and energy did not always exist. The Big Bang Theory describes a moment 13.8 billion years ago when the universe emerged from a singularity, not from the pre-existing matter, because there was no time, space, or matter before. Now this is crucial. Something came from nothing. But nothing by definition cannot produce something, especially governed by precise mathematical laws. This leads to a foundational conclusion. If the universe began to exist, it must have had a cause that transcends time and space. In philosophy, this is known as the cosmological argument. Everything has a cause. The universe began to exist, so the universe has a cause. That cause must be outside of the universe itself, timeless, powerful, and non-physical. Try to imagine nothing. No space, no time, no laws, and then everything. Not random atoms, not chaotic energy, order, laws, galaxies, life, consciousness. That invites a creator, not an impersonal force, but an intelligent agent who began the chain of reality. Next, the fine-tuning of physics. Now, scientists have discovered that the basic of constant physics is gravity, electromagnetism, the mass of proton and electron, the strength of nuclear forces, are precisely what they must be for the stars to shine, chemistry to work, galaxies to form, and life to exist. Experts calculate that if any one of these constants were even slightly different or off by a centimeter, the universe would be lifeless chaos. This isn't a vague coincidence, it's mathematical precision, and every attempt to explain it with chance falls short. The best explanation isn't randomness or blind forces, it's intentional design. Imagine a perfect watch found on a beach. You wouldn't conclude it formed by waves in sand, you would infer a watchmaker. So good is the universe tuning that the design explanation is more reasonable than blind chance. Now let's dive inside itself, DNA. The molecule that underpins biology. Inside every cell is a complex code, a language of information that instructs building and running living organisms. This isn't just chemistry, this is information, ordered and purposeful. Scientists have noted that information always comes from intelligence and not random processes. There had to be a writer. Complex language and codes aren't seen to arise spontaneously anywhere else in nature. Imagine this. The human genome stores billions of bits of information, more than any computer we've engineered. This isn't random junk, it's functional instruction. In human experience, codes come from coders. DNA code strongly suggests an intelligent source. With the universe and life pointing toward intelligent design, the next question becomes personal. Did this creator intersect with human history? Here, the evidence turns from cosmology to historical documentation. Scholars, even some secular ones, acknowledge that a man named Jesus of Nazareth lived in the 1st century, multiple ancient sources, Roman, Jewish, and Christian, attest to his life, crucifixion under Pontius Pilate, and the impact of his followers. These include Tacitus, a Roman historian who confirms Jesus' execution under Pontius Pilate; Josephus, a Jewish historian who refers to Jesus and his brother James; early Christian writings from leaders like Ignatius or Clement, close enough in time to have heard from first-hand witnesses. The existence of Jesus as a historical figure is not seriously disputed among historians like those who study ancient Rome or Judaism. Here's the heart of Christian claims. Jesus didn't just die, he rose again. This is where the argument turns from philosophy and science and to historical investigation. Christian scholars like Gary Hermas and William Lane Craig have spent decades analyzing data around the resurrection, from the empty tomb traditions to early witness accounts and transformation of the disciples. What makes this especially compelling is the early testimony, accounts recorded within a generation of events, and the rapid growth of Christianity in the face of persecution. Skeptics across history have tried alternate explanations, hallucination theories, conspiracy theories, stolen body theories. None accounts for all the historical facts as well as the resurrection conclusion. This is where the case becomes deeply powerful. A real man lived and was executed. His followers claim to have seen him alive. Their lives and the movement of Christianity were radically transformed overnight. And for many historians, believer or not, this pattern is historically significant. A universe finely tuned and an eyewitness testimony of a resurrection are powerful, but there's another realm, morality and human experience. We all sense right and wrong, not just survival instincts, but moral obligation. This intuitive awareness of good and evil, love and sacrifice, justice and injustice, points to a moral source higher than ourselves. Naturalistic explanations reduce mortality to social evolution, but the depth and universality of moral experience, including altruism and self-sacrifice, align more naturally with the universe created by a moral being, not an impersonal force. Now, let's tie this together. Individually, each lines of evidence: cosmological origin, fine-tuning, DNA information, historical Jesus, the resurrection, and moral reality points towards a creator and a personal God. But together, they form a cumulative case, not demanded by force, but compelling in its coherence and explanatory power. It's one thing to say the universe exists. It's another to explain why it exists, how it supports life, why humanity arose with intelligence and moral intuition, and why events like the resurrection would occur. Christianity's claims are not blind faith. They are rooted in history, logic, science, and experience, in fairness to the best explanation for what we observe. For the skeptic, this may raise questions, and it should. Honest exploration deserves honest questions. But for every seeker who wonders if the universe is random, if life has purpose, if truth is real, tonight's journey shows that there is a God who is not silent, a God who reveals himself through creation and history, and a God who calls every heart to truth. If you find yourself moved not by pressure, but by the weight of evidence, there is a beautiful invitation to know not just about God, but to know Him personally through Christ. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. An invitation that stands today as it did 2 millennia ago. And so we end where every honest search for truth eventually leads, not at the edge of knowledge, but at the edge of choice. If the universe truly began, if order rose from nothing, if information speaks louder than chance, if history bears the weight of a man who changed the world, then the question is no longer, is there a God? The question becomes, what will we do with Him? God does not force belief. He leaves fingerprints in the stars, in the code of life, in the ache of the human soul, and in a cross planted in history. Some will call it coincidence. Others will call it faith. The faith in its purest form is not belief without evidence. It is trust formed because of it. If tonight stirred something in you, a curiosity, a quiet pull, a sense that this story is bigger than you imagine, don't ignore it. Truth has a way of whispering before it ever shouts. This isn't the end of the conversation. It is the beginning of an invitation, because if Christ truly rose, then death is not the final word. Meaning is not an illusion, and you are not here by accident. Until next time, stay curious, stay searching, and remember, even in the darkest night, light leaves evidence. Bye, guys.